Hey everyone, it's me again. I know it's been a while, but I've been writing some things down lately and I realized that they're really good things to make videos of, so I figured why not make some videos. So, in today's video, what I want to go over is how to make a good ending that's full of twists and turns, but can also be reread without the twists and turns getting stale. And the example that I'm going to be using today is the ending of Stardust Crusaders in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. So, let's get right into it. So, to start off the ending, we have Jotaro punching Dio right into a position where he can suck Joseph's blood and become, I guess, a better vampire. It was never entirely clear, but whatever the point is, he's stronger now, he can stop time for longer, and we're in big trouble. So that itself is a twist, but knowing Araki, you know that that's the route he's going to go in. The villain is always going to achieve the ultimate goal, and the hero has to overcome that goal. And the goal is always a twist, but you kind of see it coming. Still good though. Anyway, the ending is full of twists and turns if you've read it before, and careful for spoilers if you haven't. I should think that that's implied. But as Dio goes on and on and on about how powerful he feels, uh, you end up getting moments where he stops time and he figures out that he can stop time for more than just a few seconds like he originally could. And you get scenes where Jotaro bets on the fact that he only has 2 more seconds left and stops time at the 2 seconds, only to be severely disappointed and shocked whenever Dio remains in stop time. So, what's really good about this is even though it's a twist, and when you first watch it, you're like, oh my goodness, that just happened. It can also be rewatched with almost the same intensity, aside from the fact that you know it's already going to happen. Because at the end of the day, writing an ending that hinges on a twist is almost fatal because you're not going to be able to go back and reread it. You're only going to be able to read it or watch it even that one time and feel the shock and everything from that twist. Because if it's the twist that's carrying you, then there's not going to be anything to look forward to in a second viewing. So in this case, what you want to do whenever you're using a lot of twists in your endings is start making your audience empathize with the characters involved and the way that the characters are acting, with a very clear and concise theme surrounding the entire ending. In this case, the entire ending just builds up on Jotaro's rage until finally, of course, he defeats Dio. But as it goes along, you'll notice that Dio just keeps on gloating and gloating and gloating, just feeling so ultimate. And all while Jotaro is just getting more and more furious at him. So, despite the fact that you have all this exposition and all of this dialogue from Dio that would normally feel in a rewatch like just a big waste of time since you already know what's going to happen, it instead contributes to the overall theme of the ending, which is Jotaro's anger. And maybe I'm misusing the word theme, but I think you guys know what I'm trying to say. So, as the ending goes on, Jotaro just gets beat down. Of course, in the initial bout, he's able to get the upper hand on Dio by breaking his fist, and that gives Dio a shock. But all that comes from the fact that Jotaro just watched his grandfather die right in front of him, and Dio gloats about it. So, of course, you have this nice little page turner here where they clash fists, and the second you turn a page, Jotaro breaks through Dio's hand, which is a really good page turner, which I'm probably going to make a video on as well. And, of course, you have the fight continuing. But then, Dio continues to stop time, and you see Jotaro's reaction. You have the speed lines around the eyes, and the eyes are almost frozen as they are, but at the same time, it's frozen in an intense rage that Jotaro's in, a shock and rage. So it cuts back to him, seeing that he can't do anything. He's completely helpless once again in stop time, at the complete mercy of Dio. But you notice that he comments, he says, you know what? He hasn't felt the full force of my anger just yet, implying that we're going to get a lot more of Jotaro's good old rage as the story goes on. So Dio continues to gloat, and he just keeps on talking about how great he feels, while Jotaro is stuck there just having to listen to this. And so the reason that in this story the gloating works so well at the end when it otherwise wouldn't usually be that good upon rewatching it is because it has a purpose. outside of just Dio stroking his own ego. You'll notice that with all the gloating that Dio does, saying how great he is, how great he feels, it always goes back to Jotaro's reaction of not only being helpless, but you can really feel what he's feeling in that moment. Not only the helplessness, but the urge and just the desire to pummel Dio into a bloody pulp like he did just a minute ago. So whenever Jotaro finally gets to stop hearing Dio speaking, Dio just goes in on a barrage of punches on him, breaking his humerus, his clavicle, and then one of his ribs. Probably, I don't know which one that is. Anyway, yeah, he just goes into him. He lays right into him. He's coughing up blood in the typical JoJo style. He's almost the enemy in this situation, getting such a beatdown that you'd normally say for Jotaro to the enemy, yet he's getting it. So with each one of those punches, it just contributes to the anger and the anger and the anger. He flies through a sign. He crash lands on a bridge with Dio kicking him. You see as he tries to block, and there's just nothing he can do. He just gets kicked in the shin. Real big panel that Araki drew, just so that way you could feel the real force of that kick whenever Jotaro gets hit by it. And then, of course, finally, he just hits the ground, and you get this real nice panel that has the debris from the fall going all the way back to the vanishing point, with all the speed lines contributing to it, and Star Platinum breaking the fall for Jotaro, which is just insane. And as this whole scene is moving and moving and moving, Dio says, in the next 9 seconds, you're gonna die. And he stops time. And there it is. Everything is still. Dio disappears, and everything is just still. So you get all of that movement, all of that just power, the huge panels describing these huge hits and impacts on the main character. The main character, by the way, who's just more pissed off than Hulk, right? And everything just slows down. So you have all of that impact, and it just stops. You have a little bit of reading room as the reader, but for the character, it finally builds to the final confrontation between Jotaro and Dio. You think, what's going to happen? And upon first reading it, obviously you're thinking, what's going to happen? How is he going to stop him? What's Dio planning? But even whenever you read it a second time, just to see all of that intensity, even though it's still built on twists and turns, how Dio can stop time for longer. Oh, but Jotaro got a good shot on him, but now Dio's got the upper hand again. Well, now Dio's disappeared. That's all a twist. That's all something that you didn't really expect to happen. Yet, because of the intensity of the situation, because of the way that it was drawn, the way that it was illustrated, and even the way that it was written in the dialogue, being able to see into Jotaro's mind, it gives you that feeling of suspense even when you view it for a second or third time. It gives you that ability to come back, reread it, and enjoy it almost exactly the same way as you enjoyed it the first time, especially if you get invested into it. So the scene slows down. He's counting out the seconds, and the narrator jumps in, which is it's a nice bit if you do it right, and usually Araki does it right. So it talks about how Jotaro has no idea why Dio vanished and stopped time, but Jotaro didn't have time to worry or wonder, and you get a close-up shot of his bloody face with just a really angry expression on it. And it says, no matter what Dio planned to do, no matter what attack he planned to unleash on Jotaro, Jotaro only had 2 seconds to respond, and all I need is 2 seconds to blast Star Platinum's fist into him. And again, a still shot of Jotaro just bleeding out of every angle with that same determined yet angry expression. So finally you get the gray. It says, all I know for sure is next time I see your face, I'm definitely going to lose it. You just see that intensity building and building and building, even in the way that it's illustrated. A close-up on his eyes now with the blood. It's getting darker, the speed lines are getting stronger, and he's saying, bring it on, Dio. Just taunting him until you see this. You see this real small panel here that leads you up to this, a whole splash page, almost, of Dio dropping the steamroller on him, which is just a complete, huge surprise that would be memed to death afterwards. But in the moment, it's like, oh my gosh, it's an attack that's as big as the panel, that's as big as the build-up. It's an attack worthy of the, 4 pages of build-up that it had, and just slowness, so I guess three pages of build up for that dropping of the road roller. And all of that, here comes the suspense again. You were done, it was slowed down, you had the smaller panels, but now you're back to the big panels with the big impacts and the big bold lettering with all of the speed lines once again happening with the intense situation. You see these expressions on Dio's faces that just make him look absolutely mad. And Jotaro, of course, in just sheer desperation, because of all of that buildup, now in this scene that you're watching Jotaro in, you feel his desperation, you feel his want to just cave his face in, and Dio is just laying into him. Jotaro doing everything he can to not get crushed by the steamroller until this nice little bout of panels here where Jotaro just slowly gets crushed with this almost worried look on his face until finally it's done. And so all of that intensity and all of the twist that is the road roller, the ultimate twist in anime history, right? It all slows down again. So it's like it's a rise and a fall and a rise and a fall with the twists in between. And even though you know that those twists are going to be there when you come back to read it, because of the rise and the fall, the empathy that Araki gives you for the characters causes you to feel for the characters. I mean, that you get such a good scene with twists, but also something that you can reread and still feel the same emotions for. So he says, I did it. It's slower again. The panels are smaller, and then you get this. Dio freezes. The panels are still slow. There's not much happening yet. And then you see Jotaro pop up behind him, and if you look at the expression on his face, it's just one of, I can't believe I just survived, but also, this is the guy who almost killed me. I'm gonna put him through everything that I just went through because, oh my god, that was brutal. And you can even see the look on Dio's face. Again, he looks mad because of the way Araki illustrates the eyes, but it's that, I can't believe this is happening to me. And so all that build up, again, it's all about the build up, the suspense that you're putting into the ending, and the fact that you're able to empathize with Jotaro because across the entire ending, Jotaro as a character felt only one thing. It was the anger. I mean, even the narrator said it. So because of that, on top of all the twists, you have this suspenseful ending, and I suppose at the end of the day, it's just good writing, but you have this slow scene, right? And until I think it stays slow actually. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. So you have Jotaro approach Dio from behind. So finally, you feel what Jotaro feels. He was at the whim of Dio this whole time and stopped time. And now, finally, he has the upper hand on him. He was able to survive the road roller attack, and now Dio's gonna suffer exactly what he did. And because of everything that Dio did to Jotaro in the previous scenes, it feels good to read this. It feels good to see Dio start to go through these things, especially with those expressions on his face that he can't believe it's happening to him. I mean, he's Dio. How could this possibly happen to him? And so a nice subtle touch that Araki does is when Jotaro just grabs his shoulder, which would otherwise be just a really minor move, but he's just telling Dio, like, I could end you right now if I wanted to. And as the audience, you're like, just end him right now, right? But for Jotaro, it's a revenge. It's payback for everything that he just put him through. So he kicks him in the leg, he makes him go, and they do a Western standoff on the bridge. It gives you a reestablishing shot of the bridge, and it's the two characters that just went through all that intensity, once again standing almost as equals, right in front of each other, and you know the ending's coming soon, but you don't know what's gonna happen, and even when you do, it's still such an intense scene, again, because of all the buildup. So using that buildup to get here, it's great. And I probably sound like a broken record since I don't script these videos, but the ultimate fight, the ultimate battle right here is about to happen. Dio goes in. Again, the panels start to move quicker now. They're larger. The impacts are more, what's the word? Important, I guess. The impacts are more important because they're larger. They have a bigger impact. That's what Araki wants you to feel. And so after all of this slow moving panel work by Araki, you finally get the once again intense and large panel work that shows these two titans go to war again. So they clash. Star Platinum's fist breaks, it cracks, and you have this nice final shot of the two characters looking at each other. Jotaro tired and beaten down with blood dripping down his face with this expression almost of he's gassing out at this point, and Dio with this look of utter confidence, thinking that he's about to prevail. You turn the page, but the fist cracks into the leg, and Jotaro has that determination. He's on fire. He has the blood dripping down his face, but he's not gonna stop. The speed lines increase around Dio's face, and Dio begins to disintegrate with Jotaro's fist. And the fight ends with Dio being destroyed, utterly annihilated, as they put it later. And you see Dio just panels and panels of Dio getting obliterated with his expression like, I can't believe this is happening to me. He's saying that as well. And these hyper detailed drawings with these larger panels for what equates to just a few seconds of time, if not less. But he's drawing it that way because of all the buildup. It's giving you what you wanted as a reader. And so upon rereading it, you're going to feel the same way because of the way that he wrote the intense situation. Like, who would have thought that Dio would just get disintegrated by a fist, but now he's going out in a blaze of glory, just being destroyed, a bloody mess, being crippled. This great vampire of Dio is just pulp by the end of the story. And then, of course, Jotaro hits him with the one-liner, you lost for one simple reason, you pissed me off. And once again, the manga slows down. Dio, the world, utterly annihilated, and it picks up in the next issue. So, at the end of the day, if you want to write a good ending, make your reader empathize with the character who's going through the hardship, and whether that's torturing them as much as you can, or, just showing them go through challenges. Whatever the character is feeling, you need to make it consistent, and you need to make the audience feel that as well. So whenever the character finally defeats the adversary, the audience feels the same way as the character. Because if the audience feels a different way than the character, you're doing it wrong. And if you're relying too much on the great twist, if Araki had relied way too much on the fact that he used a road roller, then it wouldn't have been as good. Because imagine if the build-up to the road roller wasn't as large. It wouldn't have worked. It wouldn't have made any sense. But because of the context of the story, because of how Jotaro was feeling and the way that it was written, the twist worked because it added something to the rest of the value of the story. So, yeah, just a nice video to try to come back and upload consistently. I really hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope you guys learned something from it. And as always, I'll be back.